let's go further. Unholy Communion. Now, this is the actual book that we just talked about. It says, they usually come at night. They may take one person, a couple, or entire family. They have no racial or social preference. They have been. Now, I don't really know about that, racial or social preference, because I do believe that these abductions are based on DNA profiles. There's way too much that I'm seeing right now in so many different circles that are saying that one of the main things that Satan is obsessed with is DNA. I've reported on this in times past with this whole transhumanism issue, with the whole tainting of the vaccines with foreign DNA, with neural implants and becoming what they call post-human, and all of the ways they're trying to degrade and defile the DNA of mankind. I do believe there is some type of DNA profile that these abduction scenarios are based on. And that's all I'll say about that, because I just can't be any more dogmatic than saying that. Anyway, they have abducted people from all walks of life to mysterious bright rooms where they conduct unusual procedures, usually horrific procedures, if the people are allowed to. You want to know what these abduction scenarios are a typical abduction scenario is like? Go up to the internet and key in "fire in the sky" on YouTube. Key in "fire in the sky" and abduction scene. Watch that clip and let me know what you think. No, don't let me know, because I can't take all the emails. I really believe that's a pretty accurate assessment of an abduction scenario based on all my research. And let me tell you something. That clip is scary. That clip, I mean, from a flesh standpoint, that is some scary stuff. I'm not saying we're supposed to go around being afraid of these things. I'm saying for an unsaved person to go through something like that, that is just about, I mean, you cannot help but have absolute 100% compassion for anybody that would have to endure something like that. And again, 3 to 4% of the population, when polled privately in America, have said that they have had an abduction scenario. But a lot of them don't remember all the gory details because they do something to wipe out the memory processes. But that doesn't always work real good. Anyway, if you want to check that out, that is the kind of evil that you're dealing with in that particular scene in that movie. I think that's a very accurate appraisal. These things aren't nice. They're not here for our benefit. They're not our buddies. There's not a race of aliens, supposedly, that are good guys, and they're fighting the bad guys. Again, that's the Hegelian dialectic. They got the good guys and the bad guys. It's like having white witchcraft battle black witchcraft. And then you have the synthesis being gray. It's not about that. They're all evil. Every single one of them. Okay? And it's one big gigantic deception is what it's all about. So anyway, this phenomenon has come to be called alien abduction in pop culture, where entities claiming to be from distant star systems. Now what does that do? If they're from some distant star system, well, you start thinking, doesn't that make you want to question the Bible? If you start thinking they're from some distant star system, like, well, why did the Bible talk about that? And are they really from that? And are they outside the Bible and all? They're trying to convince everybody they're from like 8.9 billion light years away, and that they're here, and that the God of the Bible doesn't exist, and that they actually are our creators. Did you know that? That's what they tell people when they get abducted. Where do they say that? All the time. People get abducted and they'll be shown things. And they'll be shown things. And if you want to see a great example of that, you want to see a great example of it being shown, go up to YouTube and key in "Mission from Mars, last seen." Mission from Mars, last seen. What is shown to that astronaut in the last scene of Mission from Mars? This wonderful looking, almost compassionate, large, gray alien looking entity comes out and shows this astronaut how we were formed, and that they are our creators. And you know what she shows them? She shows that sometime in times past, Mars was bombarded, I think, with meteorites, and they had to flee the planets, all these aliens. But what they did in their compassion is they sent out these seed pods that literally went to planet Earth and went down into the ocean. And from the primordial slime of the ocean emerged this two-cell amoeba that was us, and eventually that amoeba turned into a suckerfish, and then, and I'm paraphrasing here, and then that suckerfish turned into an octopus or whatever, and then that eventually grew legs and came on dry land in some type of amphibian-type reptilian form, and then that turned into an elk, and then that turned into a monkey, and then that monkey turned into a gorilla, and then that gorilla turned into Neanderthal man, Piltdown man, and then here we are. Here we are in all of our whatever. And that's what they're teaching in the ancient astronaut theory. And when these people get abducted, many times that's exactly, in fact, they're always taught that. They are taught that the aliens are literally our creators. And could you imagine if all the stuff went down at the same time on planet Earth and things really started getting nasty? We had World War III, Antichrist comes to the thing, he says, listen, I'm here. In fact, I am in control of all these fleets of UFOs. I control them. Which is exactly what Maitreya says he's doing. He flat out states it. And he's, again, we've done tons of teachings on Maitreya if you want to know more about that. You have that scenario going down where one man's saying he can lead all of them and all this technology, and what they're going to do is they're basically going to say, you know what? All the religious systems, there's some basis in fact, but most of them have deceived you. We're your actual creators, Maitreya and these ascended masters and all of these people following them, or these entities following them. And we created you, and we seeded the planet with life millions and millions and millions of years ago. And this is where we get what they call the ancient astronaut theory, that these things came here millions of years ago. They are our gods. They created us. And we're a byproduct of their little science experiment. And that's how humanity got its formation and being. And that the Bible is a total lie. And that Jesus, they got the whole thing on the cross. That was all messed up. It's going to go on and on and on. And there's going to be literally billions of people that fall for this. And I'm not saying that just because I'm making this up. I'm saying that based on all the research. I just gave you a little synopsis of what I believe is going to go down. Hey, if you were Satan and you were trying to deceive the most amount of people on the planet, wouldn't that be a good scenario to do it? I mean, it'd be a pretty good scenario to try to do something like that. So let's go further. This phenomenon has come to be called alien abduction in pop culture, where entities claiming to be from distant star systems whisk people away into bizarre and unwanted test beds. Now, for the first time, it is revealed through analytical duplication for what, in the past 2 decades, a team known as CE4 Research has discovered using guidelines for redundancy similar to methods employed by scientist investigators to illustrate repeatably that thus this cause and effect, having documented more than 300 actual test cases of experiencers, as they are called in abduction communities, and have witnessed their abuse permanently stopped due to this research. This is the only way to stop abductions. It's the only way. The only way. And you know what? You try to tell a witch or one of these UFO people that, they don't want to hear it. I've tried to email them before. They don't want to hear it. It's like, here's the solution. And they don't want to hear it. I would rather wear my tinfoil hat, I'd rather wear my crystals and keep getting abducted and keep having these things harass me my whole life than yield to Jesus Christ. It is insane. I've actually emailed these people before. Not one time have I had them be receptive. Not one time. The hold that Satan has on them is so great. I really do believe it's also a way that they become demon infested through these abduction scenarios. And they become so controlled mentally that they don't want to know what really, the demons inside them don't want them to know the true way out of the scenario. Anyway. And again, that's not a subject you ever hear the church talk about. Yet it's a gigantic problem. It's just not a big problem that a lot of people talk about.